Marty Jackson with xMatters. I'm a product evangelist. Today we're going to be talking about model operations at scale with Viasat. You know, there's a lot of difficulty in taking the lessons that you learned at the small teams in DevOps and making that work at an enterprise scale. So to that end, we've got a joint customer, Viasat, that you mentioned before, global communication company, wireless and satellite, connecting residential, commercial, military to the internet securely. And we've got Chris Crocco here who's going to talk through some of the amazing work his team has done. They literally have integrated us with almost the entire Atlassian suite all the way through. So you're going to learn a lot of the great use cases there and how you can use Atlassian xMatters together. So let's get started. So I think this slide says it all. This digital business transformation is difficult, right? How do you get the people, processes, and technologies aligned together so you're streamlining your work, but you keep people also up to date? How do you do that? How do you go from the old way of doing things, which is more ops-centric, a very definite wall between development and ops, and actually turn that into a DevOps transformation? So this is a slide I think we've probably all seen for years and years. There's a lot of business demand on IT, right? And not only is there demand within IT, you've actually still got to keep up your quality, your availability, your runtime, etc. So now are you not only trying to put change in quickly, you've got to keep your runtime, etc. up to date. And you also have to do this with legacy tools and technology as well as a mix of new technologies. So how do you do these things? Well, it's extremely difficult. And this is where change comes into play, right? So you have incident management, you have incident resolution, and change management. Change is extremely hard and complex. And then when you try to put orchestration on top of that, it becomes very, very difficult. How do I make sure that all these people are in tune as to what's happening? And if I'm putting hundreds of changes into production a day, how do they not step on each other? How do they know that if something goes down, whose fault was it? How do we quickly get them engaged? So you've got all these different stakeholders that have a place in the path, and they're all impacted. So this is where xMatters fits. We actually live in those spaces between the tools and people, so we can automate pulling the right people in to get them involved in either a change or an incident, etc. But we also give them the data. That's a key differentiator for us, is it's not just finding the right person, it's finding the right person, getting them the data so they can do things with it, and also automating that workflow. So say for instance, if you've got an alert from one of your monitoring tools, automatically open up a service desk request or a chat room. Those are the things that we actually automate as well. So I know I kind of blazed through that. I want to make sure Chris has plenty of time. So Chris, why don't you come on up to the stage and walk us through the use cases. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. All right, so thanks, Marty.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Crocco. I'm the lead network solutions engineer at Viasat. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're using everything that Marty just talked about to actually implement DevOps changes in our environment. So a little bit about our company. We are primarily a satellite communications company, a lot of government services, as you can see, but we're expanding into a lot of commercial and residential as well. We do commercial airline internet, so did anybody fly over here on American Airlines, Virgin America, United, any of those? One person, awesome. Two, great. So if you use the internet on one of those planes, that was us. We also have a residential service called Exede in the United States, which is basically like Dish Network or DirecTV, but with internet. We also do maritime, we do business continuity, so a lot of different avenues of business for us. And we have a pretty big milestone coming up. We are going to be launching our Viasat 2 spacecraft here at the beginning of June, which is going to be the highest capacity satellite ever launched. It's going to be 7 times the capacity of our previous satellite that we launched, Viasat 1, which currently holds the Guinness World Record for most throughput of any spacecraft. So 7 times that amount. And this is what it's going to cover. So right now you can see the lines over the United States right there are Viasat 1, the one that's already up there. You can see Utelsat. Does anybody have two-way internet, or at least heard of that here? Or Utelsat in general? One person, awesome. So that's their beam map. And then that great big blue blob right there is going to be our new spacecraft. One of the things that you can see there is we have a lot of beams going very far north and very far east. And what that's going to allow us to do is provide high-speed internet on those planes all the way from gate to gate. And let's say you're going from Denver to London nonstop, or New York to London nonstop, or anywhere else. You're going to be able to get high-speed internet the entire time. One of the things that is a challenge for us as a result of this is we're having to completely re-architect how we do business. 7 times the throughput, a lot more ground segment, a lot more complexity to the network means that we're going to have to change the way that we operate that network. So our focus, or my focus, rather, with respect to Viasat 2 is on automating solutions for that. So we do a lot of auto remediation, so self-healing devices and systems within our network, monitoring and alerting when we detect an issue that's either a symptom or a cause of something going wrong in the network. Visualizations so that these teams have an understanding of how their microservice within the network and how the larger network overall is performing. We do a lot of that with Splunk, Grafana, custom Python scripts, the Atlassian suite for tracking and communications, and xMatters. And we're moving into this DevOps environment from a kind of centralized operational model to where previously we had everything funneled through a NOC or a subset of NOCs, and then if they couldn't repair it, it was going out to escalation teams in engineering. We're shifting from that to where if you built it, you own it. If you broke it, you have to fix it. So one of the challenges that we're running into with that is, again, dealing with all of these kinds of things that are kind of well established in a centralized operations model, and dealing with all of these components, all of these needs in that distributed operations model. So how do we communicate effectively across those DevOps teams? How do we have that central NOC capacity distributed across those teams, and what needs to remain centralized in order to be successful? Manual outreach. Do we have to have somebody fill out a form or pick up a phone every time that there's a problem? Customer satisfaction. We're moving into a huge market space that we didn't have before. How do we make sure that those customers are happy? Knowing who to get a hold of, and then making sure that we have a good work-life balance for all of these teams that are going to be managing components of the network. So one of the things that I just alluded to there is you still need a central operations team, at least in our environment. There are a lot of companies out there that can go 100% distributed operations, and that's okay. But a lot of those companies don't have a last mile connection like we do. Most ISPs are always going to have some contingent of central operations to monitor that end to end, to get some understanding and some intelligence on what's a symptom, what's a cause, what teams can stand down their resources, and what teams need to add additional resources to fix a problem. So, going back to the slide that Marty showed earlier in terms of integrations, these are some of the current integrations that we have, in particular with the Atlassian suite up in the top left there, but not just that, a lot of everything. So you can see customer experience monitoring and alerting, online meetings, CI/CD, customer-focused platforms, and then we have a lot of things that were built in-house that are also integrated with this. So these are all of the kind of COTS solutions that we're integrated with, but we're making sure that anything that's built in-house inherently has the ability to notify the people who own it. So, talking a little bit about the use cases, the first is full closed loop incident. So something happened in the network. I need to know about it, I need to fix it, and then I need to know when it's fully resolved. So as an example, one of our primary tools for monitoring and alerting is Splunk. It's very, very good at catching correlated events, sending out a webhook, and then letting you know when that incident has subsequently cleared. So in this example, we use something called a sandvine shaper, which is a traffic shaper for the internet. And in this case here, we have something running every 5 minutes to catch a particular condition, and when that is caught, it's sending a webhook to xMatters. From there, xMatters has a transform script in it, so it allows me to take whatever incoming JSON payload I have from Splunk in this case, map the incoming key value pairs to particular parts of the form, particular recipients, particular other actions that I need it to do, like going out into Atlassian tools, and then sending out those notifications to the appropriate teams. So targeted communication rather than blasting everybody on a team. One of the things that we also have it doing with a lot of these integrations is opening up a JIRA ticket. This is incredibly important when you have incident management that you're running. You need to be able to track what it was, who worked it, what the issue was, and how they fixed it. This also lets us put things into backlog in terms of bug fixes, enhancement requests, that sort of thing. But it starts with an incident management ticket in JIRA. The thing is, when it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to open one of these. You're crabby enough as it is. So we have the tool take care of it for you. We also have it notify the team's HipChat room. So you can see here, you can see the xMatters bot. You can get the event ID of what was sent through, the priority, the details of that. You can also see who responded to it, who owns it, what their additional comments were, if anything. So you're keeping the rest of the team passively aware of the issue without having to be hands-on keyboard. Again, once everything's done, it kind of goes back up this stack. So to let everybody know, hey, the issue's now resolved in the HipChat room. It will close your JIRA ticket once you've pressed a button on your phone. So really all it is all of that stuff being done. The only thing that the on-call resource sees is one response on their phone. Everything else that we just talked about is taken care of through the automation in the background. So the big thing for this is removing those gating elements to first responders. So again, we don't have to have the NOC prep an issue before it goes out to a DevOps team. We don't have to have a customer care agent call in order to have that issue rerouted. It's from the thing having the problem directly to the person who needs to fix it. We're also removing all of that administrative overhead that I was talking about. You don't have to open your own JIRA tickets. You don't have to notify your HipChat room. You don't have to put in a resolution. All of these automations are doing it for you, so you just have to focus on fixing the problem. So one of the things that this has allowed us to do is a really good work-life balance. A story that I really liked when we first introduced xMatters into our environment, one of our RF engineers, who are the folks responsible for our communications between the ground segment and the spacecraft, pulled me to the side and he said, you know, I really appreciate you introducing this xMatters thing, and it's made my wife really happy. And like, you know, that's kind of a weird thing to say about a tool at work. But what we used to do when there was a problem, we had somebody in that NOC that I mentioned, pick up the phone, look at an Outlook calendar, call somebody. If that person answered, hopefully they were the right person, and if they needed more resources, then we had to do that process all over again. Meant that we were calling this guy at 2 o'clock in the morning and waking up his wife. After we introduced xMatters, he just keeps his app under his pillow. It buzzes to let him know that he needs to wake up. She doesn't have to wake up. He can kind of stumble downstairs and fix the problem, and he's the only one tired in the morning. So I thought that was kind of a fun work-life balance thing. So use case number 2 for this integration set is our CI/CD pipeline. So we're very big on the whole fail small, fail fast kind of thing. There we go. So we use Ansible for our CI/CD pipeline. In this case, this is our tower instance. And that is sending webhooks into xMatters. We built a stanza that you just put into your playbook that everybody just copies and pastes. At the start of your deployment, it will send out a notification through xMatters saying, hey, your deployment started, FYI. Once that's gone through, it'll also update the JIRA tickets associated with that deployment. So anything that is in your sprint, anything that's in your bug fix queue, anything that's in your support Kanban will auto update based on the transform script and the outbound integrations from xMatters. And it's also updating Confluence. So once that deployment's done, once it's successful, once somebody has said, yes, I've confirmed this is doing what I wanted that deployment to do, the outbound integration from xMatters is also updating our Confluence calendar with the deployment times, deployment dates, what it was impacting, who owned it, and what the outcome was. So again, Very important stuff to track, very important things to document, but nobody's having to do anything other than press a button. We also have a reporting queue in the mobile app, so you can see in this example, there was an Ansible deployment, and right before that, I got a notification to my team. Well, the notification to my team was probably, hey, you have a deployment, or hey, something is down, right? It may be a causal effect, it may not be, right? But I can see kind of the list of everything in an aggregated view, so from a DevOps perspective, I'm owning everything that's associated with my tools. So again, this helps with notifying when those deployments are going out. It also helps with rollback and remediation. So one of the things that we have with xMatters is we can customize all of the responses. It's not just a canned acknowledge, resolve, escalate thing. So one of the things that we're doing specifically for CI/CD is we've put in some responses where one of them is rollback. So let's say that the deployment went through, but it's having adverse effects. You press that button, it runs the Ansible playbook to roll back the deployment. And then it auto-documents the release information for stakeholders. That's that confluence piece that we were looking at. Very important for internal teams, very important for management teams, very important for SLA reporting. But nobody has to actually touch anything in Confluence to get that done. And then use case number 3, this is the most important one. It's call volume-based alerting. So if our customers aren't happy, we need to know about it. They're the ones that are paying our paychecks. There it goes. So this is a good example of one of our internally developed tools integrating with the Atlassian suite and with xMatters to let us know when there is a customer experience issue. So this is what our customer care agents see when they bring up a modem and somebody calls in. In this particular situation, you can see we've got a red dot in packet loss. That's obviously a problem. What we've built into the background of this tool called ESVT is logic that says, okay, I see that there's packet loss. The most likely owner or the most likely fix agent for this particular issue is this DevOps team. What that's doing is sending a webhook out to xMatters, again following that same kind of process that we saw with Splunk and Ansible, to where it's notifying a team that there was a particular customer issue, or if there's a call volume issue where we're seeing a lot of calls from a particular beam for a particular reason, it'll also send that trending information through as well. This is kind of what it's going to look like when somebody gets it. Again, you can customize what those messages look like. A lot of teams will put HTML in there to make it look pretty, or you can just do something like this. But it's letting them know what the customer experience problem is and kind of connecting the dots between those DevOps and network-focused teams that have traditionally been kind of disconnected from the customer side of things, letting them be aware of customer issues so that they're closer to the problem. And again, it's letting HipChat rooms know. So one of the big things that we're doing here is when we're notified of one of those customer issues, a response option that they have is Open Chat Ops. It'll open up a custom HipChat room just for that event, put in all of the event information, and then call in any other stakeholders that we need. So let's say that this is that packet loss issue and it goes to a network team. And they happen to notice that something within the systems team's purview is also having a problem, or something within our infrastructure is having a problem. They can say, open a HipChat room, call in these stakeholders, and it auto-pulls everybody into that HipChat room. Once the issue is resolved, we can pull all of that documentation out of HipChat, pull it into the JIRA ticket associated with the problem, and then close down the HipChat room so we don't have over-proliferation. So again, big advantages of that are direct communications of problems to fix agents. We're trying to get the network-focused teams closer to the customer experience so that we're giving them a better customer experience in the long run. And that is reduced burden on the customers. They don't have to wait for an escalated ticket to get resolved in 24 hours. They don't have to wait for an intermediary between customer care and network teams and system teams. It's all being done directly with customer interaction. And then we seamlessly pivot to chat ops for group level resolutions. Again, that's opening up those custom HipChat rooms for those particular issues, bringing in those stakeholders who need to resolve the problem, and then tearing down that room when it's done. So this has had a pretty tangible benefit for our existing network. We're starting to do tests on it for the new Viasat 2. But for our existing network, we're already seeing a lot of, there we go. A lot of benefits. So we reduced our response time from that previous model of picking up the phone in the knock, calling somebody, hoping that they answer. With xMatters, it's from 10 minutes down to 30 seconds on an average response time. Huge benefit in terms of customer impact and network impact. And again, we're able to free up a lot of resources to have both work-life balance, and then those knock folks can move on to other more important things to do. So these are some of the things that we are integrated with, and this is some of the other stuff that that xMatters is able to integrate with as well. So at this point, I'm going to give it back to Marty so he can talk a little bit about what they're doing on a larger scale for integrations as a whole.
Thanks, Chris. And I have to say his team is really advanced. They've done a fantastic job. Chris has been at the forefront of getting them to move from that ops mode into more of a DevOps mode, and it's been quite a journey. I think there's still some learning on the path. And the thing is that, you know, as Chris mentioned, they've done a lot of integrations. I think 27 and counting with xMatters. So, you know, it's a pretty open platform. But the main thing to take away from here is that there's all kinds of things out there that we can integrate with, and it's pretty straightforward with this new integration builder technology that we have. And there's a lot of integrations that are built out of the box as well. So you have everything all the way from release and configuration management, of course, to the chat ops side of the house as well, collaboration, etc. And then also some of the standard things that you see from a service desk and process perspective, as well as monitoring all the way through. So there's a huge environment within xMatters. We've been in this a pretty long time, so we know the space very, very well. And that's pretty much it from this perspective. If I can get that to go one more time. Okay, so the other thing is that we actually have some DevOps, we call it the DevOps journey that we're going through here. So it's an agility workshop. So these are the various cities that we're going to be in, and we've got customers speaking at those. We're going to be sharing best practices, etc. So if you're in any one of these locations, please go, sign up. It's going to be sharing. It's not going to be product. It's going to be more of what can you expect, what's your journey like, and hearing from peers as they go through that. And after that, we've got some time for Q&A.
Thank you, Chris and Marty. Please give them a hand of applause.